Hello, travel enthusiasts. Welcome back to another episode of Travel-Preneur. I'm your host, Megan McSwain. Today, we're stepping into the heart of New Orleans with a fascinating guest, Christopher Falvey, co-founder of Unique NOLA Tours. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, Mega. How's it going?
Good. I'm not too far from you. I'm in Texas, so we're neighbors.
That's perfect. We get a lot of guests from Texas.
Right. It's such an easy trip,
It
driving or
is.
flying. So Unique NOLA Tours aims to go beyond standard walking tours. How do you and your team craft experiences that are not just informative, but truly special for your guests, something really stand out?
So the real number one key for us is research. We spent a lot of time researching our tours to be completely historically accurate. And this even goes for, say, our ghost tours, which have a little bit more of a fun aspect to them, but they are historically accurate. And all of the stories are grounded in real stories that happened in history. So when you say you have a ghost tour, for example, when you add some really historically accurate stories on top of the ghost stories themselves, you get a complete mix, in terms of an experience. Another thing is people love to have myths busted, and New Orleans is just full of a lot of myths that people have been telling for the last 300 years. So with our research and things like that, we like to give people a picture of these sorts of things are not historically accurate, or this is sort of a myth that you hear a lot in New Orleans, and this is actually, it's more exciting how it really happened. So yeah, that's kind of research is number one. That's how I'd approach that.
And how do you ensure each tour captures the essence of New Orleans while catering to different interests from the travelers, different age groups?
Oh, well, what's really important is our tour guide training and being very selective about our tour guides. We take a lot of time. If we have to train a tour guide from scratch, we spend a lot of time with them before we put them in the field. And we also kind of look for guides that have been around for a very long time, that kind of know New Orleans. And the goal there is for our guests to feel like they're walking with a local. And we allow our guides, because they're very seasoned and very well trained, they don't really follow a set script we have. Now, we insist on certain stories and certain stops and things like that. We let our guides kind of decide how they want to present the tour. And because we trust them, and because we vetted them and know that they have a lot of local flavor on their own, it ends up with the guide giving something that they love to impart from their experiences in New Orleans. And we love when they give personal stories along with, we want them to go off book, if you will. So the tour guide's everything. The stops are the stops, and they're not as interesting if you just kind of walk on your own and look at the buildings and see where things happened. The tour guide is everything, and they're all locals. They've all been here for quite a while. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with having someone new to New Orleans be a tour guide. There's, nothing wrong with that, but they kind of have to fit that local flavor and bring some local flavor.
Right. Can you share an example or a memorable moment during one of your tours that reflects the essence of what Unique NOLA Tours offers?
Well, I'll stay away from some of the stories of the bachelorette parties that have gone a little sideways. We get a little bit of that, but that kind of just stays on the tour, and we just move on that. We have a tour that goes to bar stops along the way. It's a huge hit for bachelor and bachelorette parties, and 90% of them are wonderful. But I will tell you, the one thing I really love is when people take a tour and then come by the store the next day and want to take one or even two more tours with us. It really shows us that people appreciate, first of all, our tours. They love the tour. That's great. But they also appreciate the variety of tours that we offer. So, we have everything from history tours, like a true crime type tour, and then through the ghost tours. So we have this long, wide range of types of tours. The history tours are kind of a morning type thing. The ghost tours, of course, are really great at night. People love a tour they took over late at night, a ghost tour, come by and want to take a history tour. And then we kind of become friends with these people during their stay because, we have this sort of home base that they can kind of come into the shop and make the shop very friendly. It's a store. It sells all sorts of not really touristy stuff, but really like oddities and things like that, which is kind of separate from what we're talking about here. But it's a really friendly place, and we want to be friends with them for the time.
What challenges, if any, have you faced in establishing Unique NOLA Tours?
Well, this is my first time with a seasonal business. So that's new to me. I come from a variety of areas. I come a lot from tech. From tech, I had a company that built booking software for basically tours and activities like I do now. And then I moved on to just creating my own with my partner Monique, our own tour company. So the real challenge there is learning and predicting the seasons. We run 365 days a year, so it's not like we are only open X days. Like water-based activities, say in Florida and stuff, might only be open during the summer. So we run 365 days a year, but our summers are very slow. Our Octobers are crazy busy. And then there's other little micro ups and downs. That's been the biggest challenge for me just running the company.
How do you see the travel industry evolving, especially in the realm of guided tours?
One of the things I'm seeing a little bit more of is people treating themselves, if you will, to private tours. And that's something we do offer. We have most of what we do is our public tours that run every day, the same time every day. But people are kind of itching for an even more intimate experience. As a sidebar to that, we actually focus a lot on the intimacy. And that's something that people have really gravitated to over post-COVID, especially. So, for example, we're allowed to take out up to 28 people on a tour per guide. That's how the regulation is. But that's like way too much, we feel. And you know what? We would probably make more money. It'd be easier to schedule. Everything would be so much easier if we did that. Right. But we insist on having 15 people per guide. So we will send multiple guides out and they'll go along the way, but the tour itself is not going to be more than 15 people. And so we charge a little bit of a premium for that because everyone else does the 28. It's less of a cattle call. It's less of, especially the late night tours trying to get across Bourbon Street and things like that. But also any of the tours, you just get a much more intimate experience. That intimacy is something that we're seeing people really enjoy. And, I think some people looked to private tours and things like that during COVID. I deal with a lot of our private tours here, and a lot of that is corporate, makes sense. It's conventions coming into town. So they're going to want to do a very large tour with 400 people with a ton of guides, all of that good stuff. But I'm seeing more families call up and say, hey, we'd like to do a private tour just with our family, or just myself, right. Me and my spouse, or me and my partner. I'm getting a lot of that. And so we have a price point that we can do that. It's going to be more expensive than a normal tour, but you're going to get a much different experience. So we're seeing a lot of that in terms of people requesting that.
This episode is brought to you by Travel-Payments.com. Travel businesses have unique needs when it comes to credit card processing. From large average ticket sizes and tolerance for higher chargeback ratios to simple integrations with the most popular shopping cart systems, the travel industry specialists at Travel-Payments.com have you covered. Unfortunately, many of the most popular credit card processors initially accept travel businesses, but without warning, freeze their merchant accounts and the thousands of dollars in them because these service providers don't understand or support the unique needs of travel industry business. Don't get stuck with one of the big guys who will freeze you out without a moment's notice. Instead, work with the travel industry specialist who will support your business every step of the way. Visit Travel-Payments.com to get a free quote today. In a city like New Orleans, a lot of cities have rich history and culture, but New Orleans, it seems like there's so much, especially on a walking tour. Every block you can talk about something that's got some great story. How do you balance the historical accuracy with creating an engaging and enjoyable tour so that it's not too much information or not too boring, just more of a entertaining?
I think they kind of work hand in hand. New Orleans history is fascinating. So we kind of know where to put what type of historical facts. So we have, for instance, a true crime tour that goes into murders and things like that have happened throughout history. With that, we're not going to go into a lot of United States history and
Right.
how New Orleans was founded and things like that. You might touch on that a little bit, but you really want to get into the story and the story of a crazy happening, say 200, 100 years ago. Itself is history,
Right.
and it ties into history. But on our true crime tour, for example, you want to really focus on the sort of over the top aspects of what happened, being historically accurate with New Orleans history as it is, and all the things that have happened in this town. We don't need to make up any stories. They're crazy enough on their own. And balance that with, we offer some tours in the morning, like I had mentioned, that are a little bit more pure history. Those are like neighborhood tours. So the Garden District and the French Quarter, we do a Garden District and French Quarter tour. We don't necessarily call it a pure history tour because it's both history and also showing people a lay of the land and giving people options for things they can do while they're here on vacation. So we call it, the French Quarter tour is called our locals guide to the French Quarter. We balance a little bit of history, but I always say we don't want to be too bookish. You have to go into history and then tell a story along with it. It can be a personal story or a story about a person that brings out the personality of that person, so people feel like the living history of the city.
And looking ahead, what are your aspirations for Unique NOLA Tours? What do you see in the future as far as continuing to offer these types of tours, but maybe even offering something different or new? Things are obviously changing constantly.
We have some ideas at all times for new tours. I mean, the details, of course, we keep kind of under wraps, but we have like 4 or 5 potential tours that we're always researching. So we do some basic research at the beginning and then dive deep into it. We are always trying to find new and unique things. Like, for instance, recently we just launched a tour about sort of medical history in New Orleans, focusing on pandemics, plagues, and called the Pestilence, Pandemics, and Plagues Tour. It's a history tour. It's not kitschy like a ghost tour type situation. So that was something that nobody is doing here. And so we try to go into some subjects and take some risks as a nimble company, taking a risk on a new tour that's a subject matter that nobody's expecting. We love that. We put our heart and soul into the research for, sometimes it'll take up to a year to research it
Oh,
properly.
wow.
Yeah, to really get it right so that we feel like we're putting an expert voice forward. We don't want to just throw out Wikipedia facts. We take the research very seriously. So we're always looking for new tours, ideas, and sometimes they don't work, and sometimes you have to balance it with just business realities of making sure you have a good solid set of tours and don't spread yourself too thin. But that's kind of where we're going.
Cool. For individuals aspiring to start their own niche travel business, what advice or lessons that you've learned would you offer to them?
I would definitely say focus on profitability and being profitable from day one. And that's something that even when I was in tech and running my own tech businesses, there's an attitude that you can start with a ton of debt or, spreading thin on investment money and things like that. If you're talking about a niche travel business, find something where you can be profitable from day one. And hey, even if that means $1,000 of profit over a certain period of time, just focus on that and then grow from that. And don't feel bad if you're growing slowly. There's certainly just a reality of running a business. You have to move fast, be nimble, all of that. That's just a given, but you can grow slowly and intentionally, I would say.
Have
And
some patience with it.
yeah, absolutely. Keep focus on your intention of your business. Keep profitability in mind. That way you don't find yourself 6 months in, 7 months in with loaded with all this debt, and then you can't do something that would be a really great pivot. Because
Right.
keeping a focus on profitability, even if it's just a little bit from day one, keeping that balance allows you to do these fun pivots to something new. For example, for us to invest in a new tour, which takes some investment, not as much money, but energy.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much for sharing your
Oh,
journey and all that you're doing. Let our listeners know where they can get in touch with you, where they can take a
yeah.
tour if they want to.
Oh, absolutely. So the best place to find us is online at uniquenola.com. That's unique NOLA. There you can find right there a list of all of our tours. You'll see our location, our contact information. Of course, you can just book online. But if you need to talk to us about any questions about the city, about coming here, advice, restaurant ideas, all that good stuff, we're a phone call away for all of that as well, or private tours, things like that. But all of that's on our website, and that's the easiest way to get in touch with us. And when you're in town, we have a store at 815 Toulouse Street, right off of Bourbon Street. That's open every day around 10 a.m. to around 7 or 8 p.m. when the last tours go out. So we're always there, and that's always a great place. You can buy tours, and you can also, talk to us about New Orleans in general and find some great oddities.
Cool. I definitely want to visit the store the next time I'm in
I
town.
would,
That sounds
we'd
fun.
love to have you.
Thank you so much, Chris. And to our listeners, please follow and subscribe for future episodes and leave us reviews. That helps us out a lot. Thank you so much, Chris. Take care.